Okay, now student will discuss about the types of unemployment. So we know that the unemployment is the darker side of economic progress. So we know this that unemployment is a uh, it shows a negative side of any country's economic progress. It is almost a universal feature of every country. So every country we see that whether it is high or low, but there must be some unemployment we see in most of the countries. Almost all countries we see these problems. Present unemployment problem in India is mostly structural in nature. So presently what we see that the unemployment has some structures. The present scenario shows that in our country there is a structural unemployment. Mostly the unemployment is in structural. This structural unemployment can be classified. This structural unemployment can be classified in two ways. Number one is rural unemployment. Number one is rural unemployment, and number two is urban unemployment. There are two types of structural unemployment. There are two types of structural unemployment. Basically, one is rural unemployment and the other is urban unemployment. In rural unemployment, there are two structural unemployment we see. Number one is disguised unemployment. Disguised unemployment and seasonal unemployment. And seasonal unemployment. Seasonal unemployment. And in case of urban unemployment, there are two types of unemployment. One is industrial. One is industrial unemployment. One is industrial unemployment and the other is educated unemployment. Educated unemployment. So one by one we will discuss it. So first again we repeat it that the types of basically the types of unemployment, we have divided the types of unemployment on the basis of structure, because it is predominant in our country that the unemployment is structural in nature. In our country the unemployment basically is structural in nature, and the structure is rural unemployment and urban unemployment. In rural unemployment there are two structural unemployment. Number one is disguised unemployment we see in rural areas, and the other is seasonal unemployment. In rural areas there are two types of unemployment basically we see. One is disguised and the other is seasonal. And in urban areas we see there are two types of structural unemployment. One is industrial and the other is educated unemployment. Okay, so one by one we will discuss it. And in exam it may sometimes the question comes, discuss disguised unemployment, discuss seasonal unemployment, discuss educated unemployment. Okay, in 3-4 marks. So at that time we will discuss only disguised unemployment, or if the question comes like seasonal unemployment, then will only discuss seasonal unemployment. Okay, so one by one we will discuss it. Now we will discuss disguised unemployment. It refers to a state in which more people are engaged in work than are really needed. So what is disguised unemployment? Disguised unemployment means, basically we will explain it like this, that suppose in 1 acre of land, uh, uh, suppose in 1 acre of land, someone wants to cultivate agriculture. So any agricultural product, rice, wheat, whatever, he wants to cultivate 1 acre of land. Okay, and to cultivate some agricultural product, suppose this land needs 10%. 10%, suppose they need suppose 10%. But in rural areas, what we see, if 10% is needed for doing this work or completing this work, we see that there are 20% or 15% are working. The extra percents which are the extra persons or the extra workers who are working in this field is called disguised unemployment. Okay, they are disguised unemployment. Now they are disguised unemployment. Why? Because this land, this 1 acre of land is, because this 1 acre of land only 10% to complete the work. But actually what we see in rural areas, we see that there are more than required person is working over there. So the person which are not required but they are working in the field in 1 acre of land are called disguised unemployment. So disguised unemployment is a common phenomena. Disguised unemployment is a common phenomena in rural areas. Okay, basically in agriculture sector or in animal husbandry, we see that uh, surplus workers, more surplus workers are working there. That is why the disguised unemployment is the most important predominant form of unemployment in the agriculture sector in developing countries like India. So basically in our country, we see that it is a predominant form. Suppose a family, suppose a family has a 1 bigha of land. A family has 1 bigha of land, and to cultivate this land, suppose 2% is needed. But what we see, the whole family is working over there. Suppose 4%, 6% is working over there. That means the extra person who are working over there, actually they are not needed, but they are working. Why? Because they are not getting any opportunity, any job. And these extra persons who are working over there is called disguised unemployment. And why these things is happen in rural areas? Due to sharp increase in population. Due to sharp increase in population, because of sharp increase in population in rural area. Sharp increase in population in rural area. Okay, but there is no corresponding rise in area of cultivations. The number of the number of person increases, the number of peoples increases in rural areas, but the area of cultivation is not increases. And that is why this disguised unemployment creates, and that is why the surplus population is called disguised uh, unemployed. The main problem of disguised unemployment is, the main problem of disguised unemployment is that approximately all seem to be employed, but marginal productivity of the surplus labor is zero. So what is the main problem of disguised unemployment? The main problem of disguised unemployment is, we apparently we see that the most of the peoples are employed. The problem of disguised unemployment is, apparently we see that most of the peoples are employed in agriculture, but their marginal production, their marginal productivity, actually their marginal productivity is zero, because to complete the work they need only 10%. But act, but actually there are more number of workers are working over there, and the more number of workers who are working over there, their marginal productivity becomes zero. Why becomes zero? Because productivity is not increases, because the production is not increases. The if 10% in 1 acre of land, if 10% produce, suppose 10 metric ton of rice, if 25% or 25 people will work, then same 10 metric ton of production they will produce, because the area is fixed, area is not increases, but the number of peoples but the number of peoples is increases. So the number of peoples, the extra number of peoples which are increases, their marginal productivity is 0, because 10 peoples is making 10 metric tons. And if we take some extra peoples, again we see that the production is 10 metric tons. That means the extra 15% production is 0, and that is why the marginal productivity is 0. And this is the main problem of disguised unemployment. In my next video, we'll discuss about seasonal unemployment.